I realized that I was constantly trying to be accepted. And in the journey to wanting to be accepted, that meant that I was ignoring parts of myself that needed to be heard, that needed to be expressed, that needed to be valued, and not from them, from myself. I was ignoring myself. I'm Bethany, and this is Life.ing. I guide women back to themselves through grounded spiritual practices and honest conversations about what it actually takes to build a life that feels like yours. This isn't another self-help podcast. It's a space for women who are tired of knowing what needs to change, but not changing it. We talk about devotion, self-trust, and what happens when you finally stop abandoning yourself. If you're in the middle season, between who you were and who you're becoming, welcome home. Hello, loves. Welcome to season 3 here on Life.ing. I am currently sitting at my desk here in my loft at my creative residency here in Finland. And this may be the only episode that I record here. So I have 1 week left here, and I don't even know where to begin with what has transpired. This has been a journey. Honestly, it feels like the rebuild. We're going to spend the season talking about my experience here because I think it's too much to fit into one episode. And I'm also still in the thick of it. But I do want to share with you some revelations that I've had while I've been here. So as you know, I had no idea what I was doing coming here. I just knew I had to be here. And so arriving to this residency, I was so nervous. I definitely was in my head about what to expect and who I was going to meet. And I could already feel myself putting so much pressure on what I was here to do, what I was here to experience. But the second that I walked into my room, I exhaled. It was like I knew that everything was going to be okay. So I am in this 2-story loft, and on the first level, it's just complete open space. I have 2 desks in here. Who needs 2 desks? Apparently I do. And I have like a little seating area, and I have this beautiful desk that's right underneath this huge window. And outside of my window, I have this rock that has become my best friend. And it's where I go out every morning and I sit outside, even though it's freezing, and I journal. And then behind the rock is this just expansive landscape. There's a little red house with a seafoam green metal roof and this adorable brick chimney. And there's an old man that lives there with their dog. It's so cute. And then behind the house, it's just flat, grassy land. And there's this huge frozen lake. And then behind the lake, there's just these rows and rows and rows of gigantic trees, of birch trees and pine trees. And it just creates these beautiful layers of nature that I get to stare at every morning. The sun sets on my side of the window, and just the lighting is beautiful. This place is a portal. I don't know how else to put it. This place is a portal for creativity, for inspiration, for healing. And that is, in fact, what I came here to do. It wasn't to create anything. It was a space for me to heal. So I want to share with you today some interesting realizations that I've had. And I actually just finished doing this really beautiful 9-card tarot spread. And it really is a culmination of my experience here so far. And I think it's perfect to give you some insight into what I've been realizing. So before I came here, I have moved through so much over the past year, with ending my relationship, with moving to a new state, with making new friends, building a new community, focusing on my work. There was just so much change that happened. And even before I moved, I had experienced some really heavy, challenging friendship dynamics that I was heartbroken over, that I was devastated over. And I had these really huge moments in my relationships over the past couple of years that I now know I never gave myself the space or room to process. And that's what this month has been for me. It's been a month of processing and healing and releasing and getting really honest with myself about how I was showing up within my relationships and therefore my life. Because in my relationships, I realized that I was constantly trying to be accepted. And in the journey to wanting to be accepted, that meant that I was ignoring parts of myself that needed to be heard, that needed to be expressed, that needed to be valued, and not from them, from myself. I was ignoring myself. And because of that, I sacrificed a lot of things about myself in order to be accepted by another. And when you do that, you start to bury and overburden yourself in ways that you can't even imagine. For me, it manifested physically within my body. I threw out my back at one point. I started to get eczema, which is something I've never had in my entire life. My body, when it is overburdened, when it is overwhelmed, when it is stressed, when it is carrying too much, way more than it needs to, it manifests physically for me every single time. In college, it manifested as alopecia. So I have a very visceral response to things when I know I'm in the wrong place, when I'm making the wrong choices, when I'm ignoring certain parts of myself. And this month really gave me the space to process all of the energies and past experiences and dynamics that I was still holding on to. And so coming back to this tarot spread that I have right in front of me, which, by the way, I love the practice of connecting with oracle decks and with tarot. I think that they're very insightful because it's just pulling from your own energy. It's there to show you the truth that have always been within you, that sometimes you just need a mirror to reflect back to you those truths, right? And so this spread that I'm sharing with you, I invite you to do it too, because it has been just really eye-opening for me. So it was a 9-card spread that I did. And the first card that I pulled was for the version of me that's ending, the identity that's dissolving. And what I pulled was the card 4 of Swords. And for me, what that represents is that I was holding on to so much heartbreak, so much grief, and so much frustration from my past. And how that showed up within my day-to-day life was I put all of my energy and attention into my work. I have experienced burnout so many times over the past couple of years. And it's because I was trying to redirect my focus and my energy on anything but myself. And so what do you do when you find yourself in this space of holding on to so much pain, to so much heavy emotional weight? For me, that is the invitation to pause, to go within. It's a time for introspection, for self-exploration, for reflecting, for processing without rushing. This residency gave me the space to do that, to allow myself to really feel the pain that I was holding on to, but then to let it go, to release it, to give it back to the earth, to wherever it needs to go, anywhere but within myself. So I can start to see who Bethany is today without this heavy burden. And so the next card that I pulled was for the pattern that I keep repeating. What am I still unconsciously participating in within my relationships, to my friends, to my partners, to my clients, to myself? And the pattern that I saw that I kept repeating, the card that I pulled was the Magician reversed. And for me, the first thing that came up was ignoring my own desires, ignoring my power, and not honoring my truth, not honoring or listening to my intuition. This was the pattern that I kept repeating because I kept choosing people that would reflect this back to me, where I kept getting the opportunity to listen to myself, to stand in my truth and in my power. And instead, I ignored it. And so when I think about this pattern that I kept putting myself in, the first action that comes to mind is, okay, then I need to put myself first. I need to listen to myself and I need to act from my truth. Now, what that looks like, we're going to find out together because this is the pattern that I'm breaking, right? This is what I'm choosing to change. Now, the next card that I pulled was for where I'm leaking energy. Where am I overgiving? Where am I overholding? Where am I overextending myself? Can you see the pattern here that's coming up? But this is where I was sharing how this was manifesting in my life, right? I am overworking. I'm falling into the burnout. I'm not stopping when I should be resting. And I'm holding on to the past, this pressure that I have on myself to hold everything when I don't need to. This card was the 10 of Wands. That's the energy of that card. And so what action do I take from here? I can only prioritize what is necessary moving forward. I have to cut out the rest. This is where instead of directing my energy and my attention to what is burning me out, I have to prioritize myself. And what does that look like for me today? Well, this month has given me a taste of that, of what's possible, of what it could look like in my day-to-day life when I come home to incorporate what matters most to me so I can show up fully from a healthy space where I am balanced and aligned first before I show up for anyone else. So in the mornings, I've allowed myself to play with what this could look like with a routine that fits my life. But I know that because things manifest physically for me, I need an outlet to express and to release those energies from whatever I'm holding on to. And so it looks different every day. Sometimes I dance, sometimes I do yoga, sometimes I just allow myself to do a wild ass workout. But either way, I'm moving my body in some form. Then I've been doing a silent meditation with the rest of my residency mates here. And so every morning at 9 a.m., we go to the meditation room and we just sit in silence. And that's been very interesting. I kind of love this flow that I've created for myself. So I'm moving my body, I'm getting a good workout in. I'll do my personal energetic practice of just grounding, balancing my energy, protecting my energy, setting my space for the day. And then I'll join everybody else in the beginning for this silent meditation so I can allow myself to kind of notice what thoughts are coming up after I've created all of this space and energy for movement. And then I go outside and journal. And I just write whatever comes up for my morning. And then the rest of the day is open for whatever comes up. Now, obviously, when I get back home, I'm not going to just have an open day to freaking frolic out in these grassy fields or walk out and explore the forest that is my backyard, by the way. Like, what? Also a vision of what I'm calling in. Hello, forest backyard. But I do know that these initial practices that I've created for myself is where to begin for my day. Let me tell you, I had a couple nights here where I slept for 9.5 hours. 9.5 hours, which was also so telling. My body just needed to rest. Wow. At home, I'm pushing 6 hours if I'm lucky. And so I'm honestly just learning so much about what my body needs and what I need to be able to feel replenished enough to show up for myself and for others. I remember at one point, I did relapse in my disconnection journey because we went to the grocery store to get groceries for the week to restock, and I had to turn on my phone service to pay. And when I got home, I binged Netflix till like 2 a.m. I was catching up on Bridgerton, on Love is Blind. I went down a spiral. And then I had service. Obviously, I wanted to use it. So I used my service for 24 hours. So I had this like long window of just binge watching random stuff. And I just remember when I woke up the next morning, how crappy I felt. I was like, ew, I can't believe I filled my beautiful brain with all of this nonsense, like things that I'm not even going to think about a year from now, when I could have been reading, painting, dancing, writing. It was such an interesting realization that I had about what actually matters to me and how I just don't want to take that back with me. I think it's fine to like watch a show here and there, but there's so much more that we can do. There's so much more that we can absorb and put into our minds. Like, what? Anyways, I digress. So this just goes back to where I'm leaking my energy, right? Where am I putting all of my energy and attention? And where do I want to put it moving forward to the things that actually matter most to me now? And so the next card that I pulled was for the truth that I already know. What's the truth that I have been avoiding? And I actually pulled 2 cards for this one. I was like, oh, okay, truth. What do I need to hear? And so I pulled the cards, the Hanged Man, and I pulled the 2 of Wands. And the first thought that came to mind for me was that it's time to let go. I have choices that I need to make for myself moving forward, and I need to choose from the heart. I need to decide how to use my energy so I can have a more balanced way of living. Y'all, when I'm telling you, this month has been extremely eye-opening and healing and such a release for me. I feel like you could probably hear it in my voice. I can't tell you how many times where I've been able to connect with my best friends while I've been here, and the first thing they say is, Bethany, you sound so peaceful. Like, you sound different. I feel peaceful. I do feel different. I feel like me. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I'm meeting present time Bethany, like who I'm becoming today. Who is Bethany when she's actually made room to listen and to let go of the past? And the next card that I pulled is what I'm seeing clearly now. And I pulled the 4 of Cups reversed. What I'm seeing about myself now is that I was trapped in unhealthy routines and patterns. I trapped myself in that glass prison that I spoke about in season 1. And now's the time to focus on new projects and new life goals that I want for myself. Because I will tell you, having this taste, this glimpse of the life that I actually want to live for myself has lit a fire within me. My values, what I want for myself has shifted. The vision that I have for my future is so clear now. And I feel like this little dangling carrot has given me the fuel to move forward and to do the work and to keep moving. And so the next card that I pulled was a focus around what needs to be released, what I consciously have to let go of to move forward, which I feel like this whole time has given me this. But I pulled the Queen of Cups reversed. So what I needed to let go was the emotions. It was taking on other people's energies that I just didn't need to. It was letting go of the attachments that I held on to others from my past, right? These energetic cords and connections that were still latched onto me. And so the action that I needed to take was to heal and to process and to let go of these heavy energies and emotions. And I just needed the space to do that. You know, it's interesting. I'm having this realization right now about if I just did this daily, hey, Bethany, let's just check in with the self. Because I do this daily, but I don't do it from a place of looking at myself. I have done it through the lens of my work. So all of the focus and attention and energy that I do with my day-to-day practices were always focused around what do I need in order to show up within my work, not what do I need to show up within my life. And I think that's the perspective that's shifting with this. Ooh, when I tell you, I'm just realizing so much here. We love the growth. We love the transformation. But yeesh, the fact that I had to take a month off for myself to get there, it's just very eye-opening to how we can think that we're doing the practices that we need when in all reality, we're doing the practices that we think we should be doing. Emphasis on should. And so the next card that I pulled was what my new standard is, what I'm being asked to require of myself, to expect of myself, what I need to embody now. And I pulled the Five of Swords reversed. And that first thought that came to mind with this card was that I need to stop caring about the opinions and thoughts of others, because that's what put me in these cyclical patterns of unhealthy dynamics and friendships in the first place. I can't let fear override my truth. So honestly, forget what anyone else thinks. I just need to do me. And that feels scary because I've been in a pattern for so long about prioritizing others before myself, but it's necessary. I think that's why there's such a huge message within my work about prioritizing the self, because it's something that I'm constantly working on for myself. I think there's a difference between sitting in the healing, right? And sitting in the grief and sitting in all of the things that we're experiencing in our daily lives, but then actually doing the work to change it. That's the work. It's doing the work, but then it's continuing to move. Do the work. Keep moving, right? I feel like this is such a high level overview of everything that I've gone through in this month. I can't wait to dig into this deeper this season, because these are just like the little cherries on top, the nuggets of what I've been moving through. But we're going to go through these topics very deep this season. So I had two more cards that I pulled in this spread. It's just so wild. I hope all of you do this spread for yourself, because the fact that this 9-card spread literally showed my entire month here, it's just so amazing to see and to just have these insights laid out in front of you. And I would love to hear what came up for you by doing this spread. So please comment, please DM me, send me an email. I would love to hear what came up for you with this spread. Anyways, so the 8th card that I pulled was the structure that will hold me. So what boundary, what system, what decision is going to support this new version of me that I'm stepping into? And so I pulled the card, the 8 of Swords. And what came up for me initially with that was that I need to allow myself to process my thoughts, my limiting beliefs, and I need to allow myself to work through them. So I don't need to take a month off every year to process what's coming up in my life. And I think that's a big one for me, because obviously what leads to that is the 9th card that I pulled. This card was for devotion. What does it look like if I follow through on this? And I pulled the 6 of Wands. What a beautiful card. Because what came up for me is I get to have a balanced, powerful, expansive life. Hello, yes, please. Like, can I get all of this? That is what happens when I incorporate this devotion to myself, a life that's lived for me, where I can show up for my clients fully, where I can show up for my friendships from a place of my authentic and aligned truth, where I can show up in my romantic partnerships from a place where my needs are met too, and where I can show up for myself daily in a way that feels true to me. This is a season where we're going to talk about being in the middle season, that in-between space from where you were to where you're going, and what that looks like, and what it actually takes to step into that next version of yourself. Because we're not living in the almost life here, where we almost did the move, where we almost took that job, where we almost left the relationship. Here, we're living a full life. So I'm so excited to have you here for this next season here on Life.ing. I have some amazing guests lined up for this season. And actually, speaking of fire guests, I'm so excited for next week's episode, because it is with my financial mentor who helped me get really clear on not only my finances, but how I value myself within my work and what that looks like within my business. She is a powerhouse when it comes to business mentorship and financial mentorship and what that looks like for you in your life. So stay tuned for next week's episode. And in the meantime, please be sure to follow, like, subscribe to the Life.ing podcast. I love to just be able to have a space to connect with you all in this way. And I'm just so excited to share with you everything that I have moved through over this past month. Until next time, I hope that you continue to do the work and that you keep moving.